and for everyone tuning in to today's special event. We gathered here today for an exciting episode of the Healing of Dr. Toy podcast. This podcast is hosted with the esteemed Dr. Toya Jones, dedicated to guiding individuals through healing from struggle with toxic relationships through insightful interviews and expert advice. Jones empowers the audience to embrace healing and maintain good health. Today's episode features special guest Super Bowl champion, retired Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Logan. Uh, yeah, we're going to talk about Dr. Jones. She's not just black and American, but also a dedicated college professor, a mother, and a wife. Her credentials speak volumes about her expertise as a BASW program director at the Pittsburgh School of Social Work. She brings critical experience in trauma therapy and mental health advocacy. Dr. Jones' passion for guiding individuals for healing times every episode of the podcast. A little background, Mike Logan probably doesn't really need one. Today we're going to welcome Pittsburgh Icon Super Bowl champion, retired first fielder Mike Logan, guest Mike Stray from the East area, Keysport area, Korean high school to the NFL is a testament to perseverance and determination. The notable achievements at West Virginia University and football field. Beyond Mike's commitment to community engagement, community advocacy, and really mobility are just a few ways that you can go positive change in the community. Without further ado,
Hello, Healing Overflow family. It's your host, Dr. Toy. Thank you for joining me yet again. I know the background, everything looks different, but we had to lay out the red carpet for our special guest. I call him the champ because he is. He's Super Bowl champ. This is Mike Logan, Super Bowl Steeler champ. And I'm so glad that you're here. I had to nail him down and get that schedule right. He said, yes, I will come. And you are so humble and gracious to come and join us today. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Remember, Healing Overflow viewers and listeners, listen to us every first and third Thursday at the Linktree link down below. Click on that. And also send in your Ask the Therapist questions. I'm the therapist that's answering the questions. And if your questions get read on the air, you know you already get that Starbucks gift card. So don't forget to do that. We're going to jump right in with our guest here today. I met you through my husband. Shout out to Cornell Jones. And yeah, and you were doing street violence prevention. And he said, I have Mike Logan on my team. And I said, excuse me, what? The Mike Logan? And he's all, yeah. I was the Super Bowl champion, Mike Logan. Yeah. What? What is he doing? I was so excited because I am a big Steeler fan like everybody in Pittsburgh. You know, him and the big we love our football team. And I couldn't believe that you were in the trenches, like doing that work. So that's how I first met you. I knew all about you. I knew the journey. I was sweating on the couch when y'all went 5-7, won all the games to win Super Bowl XL. So just first of all, talk about your journey to the NFL. Living every young boy's dream. Talk about that. We'll get to West Virginia. Y'all got to treat my guests right.
Please have some grace about the Panthers. But the journey to the NFL is what led me to doing street violence prevention. I grew up on the south side of Pittsburgh, in St. Clair Village. I was raised in Whitaker Projects in West Mifflin, and then I graduated from the Keysport area high school. So I'm from all around the city, and through those walks and through those paths and journeys, I had a lot of adversity I had to overcome. Poverty-stricken family, family dynamic was a little broken up. So I know about all of that. And I wanted to show the investment of that path travel and give back to the community that helped raise me. And I was introduced to your husband, who does that work very well. And being a part of that, is just as gratifying as playing in the NFL.
Whoa.
I'm serious. It is.
Wow.
It is.
And because you have the NFL background, because I mean, professional athlete is not easy, not an easy gig at all, you know. And you're a hero to the streets. So like, how did you stay out of trouble and go that journey of being a professional athlete? How did you not fall into the riffraff on the streets?
All right, so let's get into it.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, wait.
might look squeaky clean, but there is some scarring. There is some turmoil. There is some triumph. There is some things that I had to overcome. You know, I did. I was a troubled youth. Not to the point where I was out robbing and mugging people, but I did my fair share. You know,
There's
sometimes
some
you just
stories
don't
out
get.
there.
Yeah, there's some stories. You know, hopefully, you know, a lot of them don't come out. There is some struggle, there is some strife, but that's what taught me to overcome. I started to see how that path was affecting some of my friends. Believe me, in my neighborhood, there were many more Mike Logans. They just didn't reach that finish line, or they didn't just that road just went down a completely different path. And after seeing some of that, you know, losing some childhood friends and things of that nature, I decided that I had some God-given talent that I needed to invest in something, you know, productive.
Right.
And for me, that was sports. You know, I didn't just play football, I played baseball, I played basketball, tried to run track, but I got kicked off the track team because my girlfriend was on the track team. I kept chasing her around. So, um, but sports was my way out. And through the streets, you learn a lot of things from the streets. You know, you learn where not to go. You learn, you know, who your opponents are, your competitors, your options, they say now. So I was like, I can translate that into athletics. And I utilized all the skills that I learned in my upbringing and translated that to the field.
Wow. So when did you know, like, wait, I might go to the NFL? Good enough to go because the level of good is beyond, it's like you have to be exceptional. When did you know, like, I have a talent? I'm going to the NFL.
I always heard that. Even as a youngster, 6 years old, running around, pop winning football, everyone always said, you got enough talent to go on. And it didn't really hit me until I got to college. And my college coach, John Needham, looked at me. He looked at me dead in my eye and he said, if you just stay the course, you have some of the most athletic ability I've ever seen in my
Wow.
career. And
Wow.
his tenure at West Virginia University,
Yeah.
he's coached some great athletes. So when I finally really, when it hit me and I looked at it and I said, Mike Booth, Major Harris, you know, all these guys who went before me, and he said, you have just as much, if not more talent than them. So if you want this scholarship that you earned to translate from Saturdays to playing in the NFL on Sundays, just remain coachable, do what needs to be done, stay out of trouble.
Remain coachable. That is
Remain
some
coachable.
good advice.
Remain coachable. And you know, through his teachings and through some good influences that I had around me, I was able to stay that course.
Wow. When you got the call, I always watch the draft. It's the most exciting thing ever. When you got the phone call, you were second round. Like, that's huge. Tell me what your mind, your body, what were you doing?
It's a really bizarre, weird story. I had a roommate named Canute Curtis. Canute Curtis was an All-American linebacker at West Virginia University. Um, he was projected to be a first-round pick. Now, me, I was projected to maybe just be picked. I didn't know where. I had a lot of injuries in college, so I was starting to fall down the draft boards a little bit because they were worried about my durability, going to the next level. They were, is he strong enough to get hurt? So we had the same agent. We were actually at a hotel waiting for the phone call, watching the draft. I was there really to support him because I thought he was going to be drafted on the first day. Lo and behold, my agent pulls me in the bathroom. He's like, I'm starting to get phone calls from you. This was like the middle of the first round.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm sitting there. My dad's like, are we going to be having a party today or are we going to be having a party tomorrow?
For you.
I'm like, no. You know what I mean? So it was kind of awkward because I'm sitting there looking at my roommate and I'm thinking that we're going to be celebrating him. And lo and behold, the phone starts ringing for me.
Yeah.
And my agent's like, "You're going to be selected, I think, in the second round." I'm like, wow.
Oh my
And it
goodness.
still wasn't hitting me
Mhm.
until I got the phone call. And I was actually on the phone with the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions told me that the Jacksonville Jaguars were selecting me 4 picks later, but they had at the 54th pick. And I said, I haven't even talked to Jacksonville. And they're like, they're selecting me. And I'm
Wow.
like, okay. So I'm sitting there, lo and behold, the phone rings. Tom Coughlin, and it's like, you're going to Jacksonville. I was like, sunshine, state, here I come.
Then you end up in cloudy, rainy Pittsburgh. But that had to be like a dream. You grew up watching the Steelers. Like all we do is root for the Steelers in Pittsburgh. So when you got to the Steelers, how surreal is that? You're in the stadium playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm still living that out. And I feel it almost every day because there's people who've known me since, I was in Tampa,
Mhm.
and they see me every day. And just to, you know, sometimes even like my friends, they still look at me and say, "Man, how did it feel?" And I'm like, just imagine how you feel, how I feel being and doing that. You know what I mean? So every day, there's a lot of history that goes back to it. Even me just being a football fan. My grandfather was the first African American safety manager at the J&L Steel Mills, those where the Pittsburgh Steelers practice facility is now. And so watching him grow up with this hard hat every day, and him go to work and being such a Steeler fan, he had a black and yellow Oldsmobile car. They used to put on his hard hats. You know what I mean? So it was bigger than football
Mhm.
for the city for me. And then being able to go out and practice every day where he got his hands dirty meant so much more to me. So I truly, truly appreciate being able to accomplish that dream and play for the first team.
Man, it's a huge dream because Pittsburgh fans, we're ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
I'm trying to
this
find a gold shirt to wear to welcome you. Like, it's that bad in here. And
is
so talk about the pressure once you're in there. The pressure of the media day is ridiculous leading up to the Super Bowl. Win or lose, sometimes fans got your back, sometimes we don't. What is that like having that pressure? People being in your pocket at that point?
Mhm.
Talk about all that for me.
Well, you never want to go. If you have ever gotten your hair cut, black barbershop, and there were a couple, you know, Monday, Tuesdays, I try to get into the barbershop, and I didn't have such a great game on Sunday. And you got friends who are the most brutally honest
It was waiting for you.
evaluation of everything you've ever done. Man, how could you let that dude go over top of you and beat you like that? I had money on the game, man. You gonna give me some money? I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot to take, and I think that's what hinders a lot of athletes, not being able to take that pressure and criticism. So you have to balance yourself. You have to find balance. It's a game. You know your sport. You know yourself. You know how to handle it. You know there's another opportunity to come back and get better and work on those things. But when you have your family, when you have the media, people don't understand playing on the field is the easy part because it's a game that you can play in forever.
I see.
It's something that you studied for years. But when you got the pressure of, okay, grandma needed her mortgage paid, you got to pay your mortgage, you got to figure out what to do with your finances, your kids got sports, you still have a family to take care of, you're still a husband, a father, an uncle, a brother, a son. You still have to play those roles. It's not just playing football,
Mhm.
which everyone almost thinks it is because they just see Sundays. But Monday through Saturday, you're going through hell. You're really going through hell, and it's a mental stress that you're not ready for because up until that point, you really haven't had to juggle things like that.
Yeah, so you walked right into what I was thinking, what I was asking, like, mentally, how do you stay stable, or did you feel like the ground was crumbling?
Every day, I didn't learn how to do that until I actually retired. I didn't learn how to handle that, and that's why the average NFL career is only like 3 years. A lot of people don't get a long tenure in the NFL because they can't handle pressure, the mental aspect of it. Everybody's like, he's a great athlete, he's a great football player. That's only like a third of it. You can do the X's and the O's all day, but if you can't handle everything else that comes along with the game, then your career isn't gonna last that long.
Yeah. So after the lights were out, you retired. You I heard, my brother-in-law, I call him the sports guru, Ray Porter. He said you said, "I wanna stay in Pittsburgh." You could have went on, but you stayed here, and we're so glad you did. We enjoyed you every week watching you. After you retired, the lights were out, what what did you say to yourself that you were gonna do? And did you feel like, "Now what?"
Well, after I retired, and as an athlete, you really it's all you've known for so long. I think the NFL and Major League Sports are doing a better job now of preparing athletes for after their transition. But when I retired in 2007, I didn't really have any of
Didn't have
that.
any.
And at that time, I won the Super Bowl in 2006. After that, it seemed like every possible devastating act and just took over. So I went to the highest pinnacle that
Mhm.
I was able to accomplish in the sport. In that Super Bowl that we won, I ended up blowing out my knee. So I had a posterior injury to my knee, and I was in my ninth year at that time, and I was like, you know what? If we win this game, this is probably it for me
Mm,
because this journey is it's been enduring and it's weighing on me mentally, physically.
mhm.
Um, won the Super Bowl. I'm celebrating, I'm elated. Found out that my mother's terminally ill. So I'm like, okay, should I retire? It might be a good time to do that. But my mother said, we don't start something and not finish it. And
Yes.
after the Super Bowl, I was able to lift her up over the stand. She had bursitis in her hip, and she walked across the field with me. It was like the
Wow.
storybook, like let's just walk
Ah,
out the stadium and
that
go
gave me
win.
chills.
Yeah, I still think about that every day. And we get on the bus, and I'm elated because I won a Super Bowl, but I'm also injured. So I'm thinking like, is this the end of my career? Is this how I want to finish up? She's like, we got more work to do. I got
Were
another
you
year.
injured in the Super
I
Bowl
was
game?
injured in the Super Bowl. In the Super
You
Bowl.
got all the way to the Super Bowl.
I mean, it was a journey, and I tried to take it back up and throw a brace when I go back out there, but I had torn LCL, PCL, meniscus, microfracture. It was a wrap. It was a wrap.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't. I had did that 3 years prior to my right knee in the playoff game, so I knew what work it was going to take to get back. At this time, I'm 32 years old. I'm like a little bit older. You don't recover as fast, so I didn't know if I was ready for that journey. And on that bus ride, my mother said, "You have one more year on your contract. You're going to finish that out. You want me to fight what I'm going through, but you to finish your contract."
That's good, mom.
So, finished my contract, played that year. Right after I retired, 6 months later, my mother passed away. So I'm dealing with injury, I'm dealing with retirement, I'm dealing with, devastating loss.
Sure.
After that, I was previously married. Marriage started to get into some trouble and we went to a divorce. So it was like it was like injury, retirement, mother passing away, divorce. I started doing media. I was working for ESPN
Mhm.
1250, had a show on there. That was kind of my way to get away, to kind of just that was some interference with everything that I had going on. In 2010, and this is like 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, all these things happened. 2010, ESPN's bought out by Disney. They're shutting down the show. So now
Ah,
I'm losing out
just a
from
lot.
it was just and
Dream.
it just kept on coming.
Mhm.
And I had no idea how to deal with that. I never thought about checking on my mental health. Physically I had rehab, I came back, but mentally I was just dwelling in a dark place. And I dwelled in that dark place for years and years and years, and nobody even
So were you wearing a smile?
I was masked. I was
Masking.
masking, to the best of my ability. I was trying to hide those in because as a big group athlete, you don't want to show that you're weak in any way. And I didn't have football to go back to take out those frustrations. So I just kept them all inside, and I was just deteriorating.
Wow. Then the pandemic hits,
Oh yeah,
and you talk about having COVID. Just talk about that for a minute. You didn't have normal COVID.
no,
COVID tore you up.
I, it, um, it's like even thinking back to it now, as I lay in bed for I think 11 days straight, um, and my wife had COVID at the same time. We both had COVID at the same time. And 2 or 3 days later, she's up back on her Peloton. And she's talking to me like, "You got to get up, you got to fight this." And I'm like, "I can't." And it was the first time in my life that I ever felt vulnerable. I felt weak, and I felt like there's nothing I can do to overcome this. And this is just going to be the end of my story.
Wow.
And that was like the reality really, really hit in. And COVID was a gift and a curse for me, though. It was the first time that I ever did anything for myself mentally.
Mm.
I was finally convinced to seek some therapy, to talk to somebody about it, to let them know that I wasn't feeling as strong as I once felt. But just getting to that point was so hard for me because I didn't want anybody to see the shell, you
First
know.
of all, you're a tough
Yeah, yeah,
Black man,
right,
hero,
right,
NFL Super
right.
Bowl champ. I gotta go to therapy.
Yeah, I gotta go to therapy. And I got a good group of guys that I hang around, but some of your boys, they like,
They be the
man,
worst.
they be on you. It's raining outside the torrential downpour. I got an umbrella. Man, you got an umbrella? What you mean?
What you got a
Yeah,
jacket on for? It ain't cold.
but I remember one time we were hanging out and we were in a cigar lounge and it just hit me. It was a state of paranoia and I just got up and left.
Mm.
And everybody's calling and figuring out, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?" And I said, man, I don't know what it was. I just had to get out of that environment. And it was like the first time that I had fellowship with my boys about how we're doing mentally. And then being able to talk about it with familiar people and just get our feelings out, express ourselves to one another, it helped me start talking to my therapist and really get into counseling about what was going on. Then I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't afraid to step out of that shell and speak out about what was going on, what I was dealing with. And I started to do that. I felt so much more comfortable with just my feelings. It's improved my relationships. It's helped me out with being a parent. I can understand some of the things that children go through now, but they don't know how to express it to the parent.
Mhm.
So it's been very therapeutic and gratifying for me to go through this process.
Well, my smile is huge because I'm a
Yeah,
therapist.
right.
So for you to say, I knew I had to go to therapy. I knew I had to take care of my mind. I've been treating my body like a temple, a castle, because it was your whole career.
A
You
money
had
maker.
the money maker. You had to treat that thing right. Now you realize my brain is everything. I got to be there for my wife, my kids. Shout out to Jen, wife. Um, and you were strong enough. As a therapist, I think you're even more of a hero and a strong man, more of a man to say, I need therapy.
Well, as an athlete, if you push your ankle, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the athletic trainers. You're going to get treatment. You're going to do ice. You're going to do stem. When you're hurting mentally, your brain is an organ. Your brain needs some healing too. So when I finally realized that you know, if I'm taking care of my injuries that I have physically, mentally I'm injured because I'm not thinking straight. I'm not feeling good. I need to get some help for that. I need to get some therapy for that, and I haven't stopped since.
You got it. And you talk about it.
Yeah,
You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to, but you do. Why do you choose to talk about it? You stay quiet for real.
I could,
Mhm.
but the great feeling that I have inside of me now, I want everybody to experience that. You know what I mean? I want the people that I know who are suffering in silence. I've I learned about a trauma that I had when I was 6 or 7 years old that I held down deep for so long that it was really literally tearing me apart. It was breaking apart the relationships relationships I had, and it was all rooted in a situation that happened when I was 6, 7, 8 years old.
Out of your control.
Out of my control, never wanted to address it. But when I started to address it, I started to learn how to rectify some of those things that were going on in that relationship. Um, I started to see fruition and fruits in other relationships
That's
and learn how
healing.
to talk about some things. So I can't stop talking about it
All
now
right.
because that feeling just overcomes you when when those relationships start to bear fruit.
We don't want you to stop talking about it because you're a very important voice, as humble as you are. And y'all, he's so humble and really could be haughty. But you decide, I'm going to talk about it so I can help others to heal. And that's so important. I mean, it's not just, because this is Healing Overflow show, but that's what it's all about. When you heal and you talk to others, then other folks will be healed from your overflow. And that is that is why I asked you, and because your story is so rich and so honest, and it shows your whole journey, but it shows the healing journey too. You didn't stop. You didn't go sit somewhere on a rock and under a tree and just cry out for the rest of your life. You're like, I still got way more to live.
You see these are some of the scars I had from playing football and
Woo.
the injuries I think I had 10 surgeries, played 10 years, so it's like a surgery a year. But you see this scarring. This scarring, it healed. There's a scar with it. When I first did this, if you would have looked at it, this bone was almost piercing through the skin. Um, it was really gross to look at. So if I would walk around like that, people would look at me and be like, "What is going on with him?"
Right.
You know what I mean? But when that is healed, you can say, "Oh, okay. There's a story to tell from that," but he came through it. So now on the inside, I'm like, I'm not going to wear that because if I wear that how I'm feeling mentally, I'm gonna be a nasty person. You probably wouldn't think I'm a humble person. I would be arrogant. I would be standoffish. I would be because you suppress all of that. But when you're healing on the inside, I want to show you this scar. I want to show you that I came through it. I want to show you that there's a scab over top of it and how I came through it, how I got to the healing, how I used some aloe vera lotion, how I used some cocoa butter, how I used I said as my to help myself feel better. So I enjoy sharing that testimony with people because they can't necessarily see those injuries and scars. So I just tell them about
We're so glad that you chose to do it, especially here for the Healing Overflow audience. We're glad that you're continuing this journey. Like we're so proud of you, still watching you just do your thing.
Well, I have to continue. Now I have young children. I have 5 children. I have 3 older children, and then I have a restart, a rebirth
Little
of
one.
a 7 and a 5 year old, and 25-year-old, 23, 21, and then I have a 7 and a 5 year old. So y'all pray for me. But they need to see this, and I never want my sons to grow up and think that they can't express themselves or tell anybody what's going on with them because, like I said, I had trauma from 6, 7, 8 years old. Never want them to experience that. I want them to always be able to voice what's going on with them. And I think by starting now, it's almost a cool thing to do.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's cool to express yourself, and they get it. We're already working on meditations with my kids. We're already working on conflict resolution.
Love it.
It's awesome to see a 7 and 5 year old across from their bunk beds, like negotiating about what they're going to do, and it's like that's awesome though. It could be an all out brawl and fight, and we're going to children's hospital. These kids are working things out, and it's through the conflict resolution that we talk about how they're feeling, how this made you feel. It's just awesome.
You're
So
teaching them.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you see the fruits of your labor. You want them to play football?
I do.
Yeah?
Um, it's tough. My wife says no, but Rain, she's not going to be able to stop Rain. Rain is already like he's playing flag football and he's like running people over. I gotta like
You see it.
calm him down. So it's in him. Now they will have a lot more education than I did about the game and the after effects of it. So I will be, cautious. I will help them to understand the game before they get into it, and they will also have to know the risk of it. Where I've run into it blindly, not knowing the risk of it. I knew that it was a violent game. I knew that it was a physical game, but I didn't know that there were so many long-term after effects that we're still learning about today. So they will have the education behind them should they decide to play.
They got dad coaching them.
Yeah.
Do they know who you are? I looked at a picture. It's one of my favorite, where you are literally horizontal.
Yeah.
I think you're playing the Raiders, like your
Yes,
whole
yes, I
body.
remember
Do
that.
they know who you are? Are they impressed with that?
Just now finding out. My older kids, my younger kids were like, and I got to tell you guys this, they're Pitt Panther fans. They met
They're
those
coming up right.
they met those people in the barber shop, and he sat down and talked to them for a minute, and they were like, "Want to go to and I want to be a Panther. And my mountaineer blood was just boiling." And I have to share just a quick story. I wanted to be a Panther too, so there's a little resentment. There's a little, but back in 1991, Coach Hackett decided to offer me a full scholarship. So I went down 79 and I decided to kick y'all's tails for 20 years. And that's exactly what I did. But they want to be Panthers, so we'll make that happen should they decide to do it. But they're just now finding out who I am and what I did. Because at the end of the day, I'm just dad to them. I'm just dad. But when they seen a highlight video and we took them to alumni weekend, like Rain looked at me with a look like you really are somebody. Like except for the time I bought him a fat head, the little sticker things you put on the wall, the pictures of. And my wife downstairs, she's laughing. I'm like, "What's going on?" She's like, that fat head that you got on the wall, Rain was mad at me. He told her, "Take that off the wall." I don't, I don't want him on my wall. But now the most awesome thing happened the other day. He's in the trading cards. They do the Pokemon cards and the Bakugan cards and all these things. And now they're doing sports cards. And this dude came home and it was like he had no idea who I was. He's like, "You got a football card?"
Hard?
He's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I'm like, so they're like trading cards at the lunch table, and one of his friends gave him a card and it was like the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm coming home seeing that smile. So now they kind of get a grasp of who I am and what Daddy did.
Wow. That has to be the best feeling
It is. It is. But I also want them to know that I'm more than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm still dad. I'm still going to make mistakes. I'm still human. I just happen to win a championship with one of the most prestigious organizations in the world.
And the ring is like this big, y'all. I had to put it on. Look at that. It weighed my whole hand down. We have some athletes in the studio. They heard you were coming and they said, "I have to be here to meet the champ." I don't know if they said the champ, because that's what I said, but they said Mike Logan. And I want to make sure that we give an opportunity for these athletes to ask you a few questions before we close out. You game for that? All right, wonderful. So if you have a question, just stand up, we'll point to you and go for it.
I know you. You was out here earlier. You talking about my shoes or something. I got a good eye here now.
What would you say was your most helpful thing or tip that you learned from therapy?
Wow. Just to express myself, to really speak about what's going on with me. There's certain things that I wouldn't want anyone to know about me. And one of those things, I have a fear of flying. I hate flying. To this day, I still hate flying. So much stress. I have an anxiety whistle on right now. And when I get to the airport, my breathing picks up, it's rapid, and I blow on this whistle. Up until this point that I started therapy, I would just go deal with it. I would run in the bathroom. I'm in there in the stall, basically panting, and I never spoke about it. So now that I'm able to speak about it, now that People see I got to whistle when I'm doing my breathing things before I get on a plane. It was just speaking up, just letting someone know, even though it's the most vulnerable, exposing thing that can never be. You know, it's like that deep, dark secret that you got about yourself that has your insecurity so high that you just don't want to say anything. I found it so relieving just to speak about it, just to put it out there. And now when I hear it, it doesn't bother me.
Obviously, from the time you were young, with a lot of athletic people, talented, intelligent people, do you ever feel imposter syndrome knowing that you were the only one who bring out to reap the benefits of grinding it out?
That's a great question. There were a lot of athletes who had just as much, if not more, athletic talent than me, and I'm still cool with those guys. You know what I mean? I was one of the only ones that make it out of my crew, but I never left that crew. So they kind of got to go on the journey with me, but you still feel a little bit of guilt about what could have been with, the people around you, but they also got to go on that journey with me. So sometimes, I may have needed them to accomplish what I accomplished to get there, but we all were able to reap the benefits of that. Like I'll never forget calling my boy, who I grew up with, and said, "Bro, we're going to the Super Bowl." He's like, "You mean you're going to the Super Bowl?" I was like, "No, you're going to." You know what I mean? So you do feel a little bit of that, but the relationship hasn't changed. I didn't leave them in the wind. They didn't leave me, and they're successful in all their other aspects of life that they're doing. So for me, it's an ordained path. You know what I mean? It's an ordained path. I think everyone has the same opportunity to achieve that. But if you don't take advantage of some of them situations, then that wasn't your path. You know what I mean? So I don't really have that. Um, I'm grateful to have the fellowship and rapport with all of the people that, there's not, I can't really think of anybody who I had in my life who's not in my life anymore. You know what I mean? Like I have some kind of connection to all. I mean, it might not be the greatest of relationships, but we know that that relationship has a little tension between it, and we know how to navigate it between it.
Can you speak on your journey of becoming more than just an athlete?
Yes. Yes. So um, when I had a plan, kind of when I got drafted, um, because everyone tells you that this journey is so short, but you think it's going to be so long, forever. Like I had no idea that I would end up playing over a decade in the National Football League because I was injured almost every year that I went through it, and it was just like, but me being injured was probably the reason that I made it every year because every time I got injured, it was no off seasons for me. You know, I was like in the training room, working out, recovering for the next training camp. So every training camp, I almost had a better training camp than the previous one because I was working every off season just to recover, get my body together. And my father was a photographer editor for KDK for over 40 years. So he was always in the media. I had an opportunity as a young kid to go down and shoot commercials with Steve Glass and Johnny Ray, some of the old Steelers, the Pittsburgh Maulers. So I was always around them. And I said, if I wasn't going to be a professional athlete, then I would be one of the people filming or interviewing the athletes. So when I retired, I went right into sports media. So I knew that I just wasn't going to be an athlete. I knew that I was going to do something else with, the talents. I had other talents, but it was more than I never wanted to be just identified as someone who was an athlete. Even if I didn't do anything else, even with my personality, even with who I presented to be, um, and then I always knew that I wanted to take what I learned as a professional athlete and try to pour that into someone else. So even if you're just an athlete by you giving your experiences and your testimony to someone else, now you're becoming a mentor, a role model, a teacher, and that makes you more than just an athlete.
Started the therapy and stuff about your experiences. Do you think that that vulnerability that you learned has strengthened some of your relationships after receiving therapy? And do you think that if you would have started it earlier, that it may have strengthened your relationship with your teammates and made you a better football player?
Definitely. Right now, I have more um, prosperous relationships with my friends and former teammates than I did when I was playing. And I'll never forget, there was a guy, his name was Donovan Darius. I played with him in Jacksonville. I did play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know we love the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Jacksonville was the team that drafted me in 1997. They gave me the opportunity to play in the NFL. There was a guy named Donovan Darius, and he used to speak affirmations to himself. And he had a video camera in his locker. He used to talk about things that, was going on with him. Like, oh man, I had the wrong angle on this play. We thought he was crazy. Like we were like literally like, dude is Logan. But he was a hard nosed player, gave everything he got. And I was like, man, why do you do those things? And he was like, those are all my deficiencies that I'm putting out there. And I want to speak them out so that I can hear it, I can, other people can hear it and they know these things, but it's just gonna make me get better at that. As I started to speak about my vulnerabilities and where I felt weak at, um, some of my other friends started to speak about their vulnerabilities. It was like a chain reaction. And instead of us going and working on the things that we knew that we were good at, now we work at the things that we need help. So instead of us going out and having a cigar or something, we might go to a seminar about self help or things like that. Things that we would never think that we were going to do together before, but it gives us time to fellowship. It gives us a different lens of interpretation on certain things. And I would never thought that I would be going on a retreat with a couple of my boys. You know what I mean? Without our wives, we're going on a men's retreat about self care. It's like, nah, bro, that ain't gonna happen. But the first one we ever went on, we came back from it. It was like, wow. And then we noticed the like I said, the fruits of that labor from our wives who were like, oh, you're not hard of hearing. You can hear me. You do understand what I'm saying to you. So yes, being vulnerable has opened up a whole new world for me, especially with the relationship with my former teammates and friends.
You speak about being injured a lot in college and in the NFL. I'm wondering, did you ever have points of doubt? And if so, like, how did you overcome them?
Wow. I have a testimony. In college, I almost threw in the towel. I showed you the scars from my wrist and my forearm. I have two plates in there and 8 screws in each side. And I got injured my freshman year, my sophomore year, and my junior year. And I was like, this ain't in the cards for me. I don't care what y'all are talking about. Coach Nina kept saying, no, you just got to keep at it. I'm like, Coach, I think the Lord is telling me I don't need to be a football player. And that was the first time when I really just thought that the game wasn't for me. And the only reason I was able to overcome that was that I had some encouraging people around me. And then in those dark moments when I was by myself, I almost heard my own voice saying, if this is what you want to do, and this is um, who you want to become on the field, then you just got to go out, tune out everything else. And then I almost reversed it like, okay, this is a detractor just trying to take me off the path of what I wanted to do. And even so much like in the NFL, like I told you, that after the Super Bowl, I was like, this is it. But I had to complete that last year and get through it. And then I and tell you the truth, I probably could have went on and played a couple more years and had a couple steal years when they say you steal the check. But I had done everything. I didn't talk myself out of not playing. I talked myself into being satisfied, being able to overcome all the injuries and adversity that I had.
Oh, that's great. I think we have time for one more. If there's a burning question, one more question.
Write mine down because I'm not good. So I grew up in Pittsburgh as well. What was it like growing up in Pittsburgh, attending a local school, and then playing for a professional team in your hometown? And did that make you feel like there was an expectation or pressure to actually playing for the Steelers, assuming that you were watching them play?
Yeah. I thought that, when they were talking about me going to the NFL in college, I was like, I'm going to Steelers. I didn't even think like there was anything else that was going. I was like, I'm going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then first round pick, they didn't select me. So I was kind of like,
Steelers?
was like, come on, this is supposed to be. This is what's supposed to happen. But I always felt like it would come full circle. I always felt like it was going to come home. So much so that I knew Bill Cowher prior to me getting drafted. I used to go watch his daughters play basketball against Swin Cash, who went to my high school, went to McKeesport. So I used to always see him around it. So I forget, I think it was like 2000, 1999, I seen Coach at the game. And I was, talking to my friends loud enough for him to hear me saying, man, Pittsburgh didn't draft me, but I'll be a free agent next year. It'd be nice to come home and play. He didn't pay me no attention at that time. But after like a month later, my agent called. He's like, Pittsburgh needs a defensive back. And I was like, I'm signing a contract. And he's like, whoa. He's like, let me do my work. Like, let me get some numbers on the paper before you. I'm like, no, I'm signing like right now. This is a childhood dream. At 6 years old, I stood up, and I'll never forget, with a group of my friends, and said, I'm gonna be a Pittsburgh Steeler. I'm gonna play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we're gonna win a Super Bowl.
Whoa.
And one of my boys at the time, threw a lock at me and like hit me in the head with the top of this lock. That stuff don't happen to us, you know what I mean? And for a while, that stuck with me. But I always felt like if I had an opportunity to play in the NFL, I would come home and play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's why this testimony that I share with the youth that I talk to is like, it doesn't matter where you're from. Like, I know there's a whole bunch of adversity and things that are against you right now that you can't see it. And even if you can see it, it's like there's always something clouding that you're like, this isn't going to happen to me. But I'm like, I'm a living testimony that it did happen. Like and that's why I go back home and do the youth intervention and group balance intervention, because I want them to see that it's truly me. People are like, why don't you just stay in Jacksonville and enjoy the weather? And how do you come back home? I said, because I need for the children who want to go on and do something to be able to see me, pinch me, and say, this is reality. You're here. I'm able to come back home and still be around my family and friends, everybody that I do. There's a sense of getting up every day, and my old neighbor, Mr. Bragg, and her family, like, they're able to see me and still walk up to me and say, hey, Mike, how you doing? And they call me Juice. Like, so I know people who know me they'll call me Juice, and they'll walk up and we can have a conversation. They're like, it's so awesome to be able to walk up to somebody who's had your accomplishments, who's had your success, and still just be able to have this relationship. So that's what I always want to keep doing and keep, that's why I stay in Pittsburgh. And, we get my kids a scholarship to Pitt, they'll be here, be vandals. So let's make that happen.
You hear that, Pitt? We got to work
Let's
on
make
it.
that happen.
We're so glad you stayed in Pittsburgh. We're so glad you are our champ. And we're so glad to be able to just touch you, come up to you, talk to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy. Thank you, Healing Overflow family, for tuning in, listening. Y'all support means the world to me. Keep on sending your questions to Ask a Therapist. You can send it right to my email, Toya J. I almost forgot my email, y'all. I don't even myself. Toya J at pitt.edu or hit the Qualtrics link. You can listen to season 1 and season 2 of Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy. Click on the link tree link. It'll take you to all the social media stuff that my kids told me I needed. So thank you for joining us, Pitt athletes. It was so wonderful to have y'all. Thank you again, Mike. I can't even believe you're here. This is so wonderful. Listen, I was such a fan, but now I'm even more a fan of number 31. They don't need to play number 31 again. I don't think they have.
Well, Donnie Shell, I was the first person to wear the unofficial retired 31 jersey from Donnie Shell. And that's, if you think I'm humble, if you meet Mr. Donnie Shell, he's one of the most humble beings you'll ever meet, and an outstanding player. And if anybody wants to meet me on social media, I'm at Logan on all social media platforms. I enjoy answering questions for fans. If you have questions, they can always reach out to me. They can find out what I'm involved in the city, where I do youth camps and all kind of things. So Logan3 on everything fan page on Facebook is Mike Logan.
You gotta hit him up. He's personable in real life, y'all. Thank you again. Thank y'all for watching. Keep healing so your healing overflows onto everyone else. Bye, y'all.